What if you had a secret, a lie, one that you've told to yourself and you've told to the world for a long time, one rooted in your greatest fear, your fear of being afraid. Hey, good day to everybody. Time is it here? It's like 5:54 a.m. So I just wanted to have fun with that intro. I was looking at different intros to use, and it's funny how things work out, because I was like looking for something jovial and like what's a good morning intro, and I went on this website Pixby, and you can get royalty free music and stuff, and so I was just listening to them all, and they were like a minute and 40 seconds, and I just wanted like a short clip, and I saw one of the only clips of this size on the whole thing. And I played it, and it was just so the opposite of what I was looking for to do my intro this morning, that I was like, I have to try this. I have to do something with this. And so that's what we did. Obviously, you can tell by my demeanor now that my goal isn't to make this a super serious, it's not an action movie, it's not about some super bad guy or anything like that. But what I did say is very pertinent to what I want to discuss here. So I'm going to try to keep these short, and anybody who's listened to any of my other podcasts in the past, that has not always or ever really ended the way I wanted it to, but I'm going to really try to do this. My daughter said to do them in 4 minutes. Let me see. Is that even possible? So here's the thing. I have realized with myself lately that, I've been on my spiritual journey for some time. I was of the world and, chasing after this and chasing after that in the outside world. And something happened to me a few years ago, and I just kind of said, I don't want these things that I was always chasing. And in hindsight, I feel like I was always searching for something, but I didn't know what it was. And, then I went on my spiritual journey for a while, and I had a lot of success. I have a lot of great information I've been able to understand and ascertain. I've been able to do counseling for other people, pro bono counseling and stuff. And, I've had success with helping them and inspiring them. And, I really thought my focus was on how I could bring to other people knowledge and wisdom and understanding in a context that helped to inspire them. That's my ultimate goal. My ultimate goal is to be the best I can I have kind of three things. Be the best I can to create the best life that I love the most, be the best I can to create the best relationship to all things that I love the most, and be the best that I can to inspire as many other people to see what they need to see so that they can be their best selves. And that's my goal. Why? I don't know. I guess we all have kind of a soul or a heart's desire, and that's mine. And so lately I have been really kind of practicing with feelings. So I'm not going to get into my past here, but past I don't think is necessarily I know past isn't the driver of the future, but if we ignore it, we can be doomed to repeat it. So I think it's still important to have an understanding of where we're at so we can transcend it. It's like knowing you have a low air in your tire. You're not saying, I will never be able to drive again because my tire's low on air from the past. But we still got to, look at our tires and say, hey, this tire's low on air. Maybe I could fill it up, right? So that's really what I want to get to. Sorry, my mind's actually kind of debating if I want to introduce something in here. So this is going to be the first of a series of podcasts we have. I'm going to be working with some collaborators. It's basically about being free. That's the whole premise of it. It's not necessarily being happy. It's not necessarily being good. It's not necessarily being right or any of those things. It's being free to allow yourself to be what you consider to be your best. That's the whole focus on it. And the inspiration I got for today's podcast. So what I'm actually going to do is I'm going to record this podcast on this specific message, and then I'm going to make some other podcasts that can be complementary to this in helping people to understand how to resolve the situation. But anyways, what I'm going to get to here is feelings. Who would have thought, right? I live my life by just basically repressing them. Literally my entire life. It's so funny I'm seeing this now. I don't know how I survived and made it this far, being so detached from my emotions. But I think that I may be an extreme example of someone who did that. But I'm beginning to realize that, well, I've known for some time that it's kind of a normal circumstance in our society to suppress and repress and resist and run away from our feelings. And I will tell you guys firsthand that, Jesus said, what gets you out of Egypt, or what got you out of Egypt won't get you to the promised land. What we've all done to get to this point with the way we've dealt with our emotions and our feelings, and I'll bring up some of those on these ensuing podcasts, but what we've done worked for us to get us here. So none of it, in my opinion, was quote unquote wrong. But as Jesus said, what is that noise? I don't know what that noise is. What got you out of the promised land what got you out of Egypt won't get you to the promised land. And so I'm learning now that it's time to really start embracing our feelings. And so at the beginning of the podcast, I said that, you have been, what if you've been living a lie? And that lie was rooted in the fact that ultimately you were afraid of being afraid. All right, sorry, I just did a cut out there. I'm like, what is that noise? And it just, we had a downpour outside. My window was open. And I'm like, what is that? It's like, psh. Oh, I'm imitating the sound, but for any of you guys listening, of course, you heard it. So feelings, right? I'm going to get into this in detail over the future episodes, but the whole point of this podcast series is not going to be telling anybody what to do or how to do it. What do I know about what anyone else needs to know or do? I'm really just kind of disseminating information that I've accrued, and the other people that will be working with me will be doing the same. And we're just really going to be talking, as crazy as it sounds, we're just going to be talking about our feelings and our experiences. And interlaced between these episodes, I'll have some podcasts that will dive into some ways that we can overcome these things, some more understanding of who we are, and things like that. But for now, this episode, what I really want to do is just encourage people to think, just to look within yourself and ask yourself, have I been running from my emotions? What's the word? The word emotion actually comes from the Latin. How do you say that? Emovere? Well, that's the French one. Emotere, I think it is. And it means more or less literally energy in motion. So, we can have all the knowledge and wisdom that we want in our lives, and, but it is the emotions themselves that drive them. The key to, what can happen to us is that we can actually have energy stored inside of our subconscious from traumas and experiences when we were little, and they're kind of like these wrappings of so let's say something happened to you when you were younger. You're going to form an understanding. This thing, so you're going to form a belief. This thing caused me to feel this, and they're kind of wrapped together, and it's like a tree in your garden that keeps producing the same fruit more of like itself over and over and over again. And people have two ways that there's three ways you can, but most people choose one of two ways to deal with these trees. And one is they feed them and they nurture them and they water them, right? Look at your emotions as a fruit that's connected to a branch, your thoughts, which is connected to a tree and root system, which is the belief that was initially founded in the past. And in your garden of your mind, there's all sorts of trees, and that's why Jesus said a good tree will produce good fruit, a bad tree will produce bad fruit. A bad tree cannot produce good fruit, and a good tree cannot produce bad fruit. And what he's talking about, some people try to associate that with human beings, but he didn't go to that level of judging individual human beings. It was more upon our consciousness and understanding our know thyself, of knowing ourselves. And that's where the term, like, you reap what you sow, right? So if you have a tree that, was planted in your garden when you were younger. Actually, another thing he said, a farmer had his harvest planted, and an adversary came in and threw a bunch of seeds of weeds in his garden. And someone asked him, should you pull up all the weeds now? And he said, no, I'll wait until harvest time, when it will be plainly visible that of which is my harvest and that of which is the weeds, and the weeds will be pulled up and burned. And really, ultimately, that's our goal here, is to cultivate our garden and to find where do we have trees that maybe were planted in the past, when we were kids, and we didn't have any control over anything, and so we had to repress it or shut it away or hide it or project onto the world so that we didn't feel shame in ourselves, or maybe we felt shame in ourselves so that we didn't feel we were disturbing the world. Whatever it is, they're just a bunch of trees, and they are not who we are. And that's the biggest thing about the thing about being afraid to be afraid. We have to really understand that while the emotions that we have are a part of us, they are also temporary, and they are not who we are. And the biggest reason that people like myself or anyone else is going to repress their feelings, or even feed their feelings, is because they over-identify with the fact that they believe they are the conception, that they believe they're the trees that were planted, and not the one who is responsible for planting them, or the one who is responsible for pulling them up. So anyways, I wanted to keep this relatively short. So it's just these podcasts are going to have some little bit of information in there. I might throw some scripture, or Einstein quotes or Stoicism quotes, things like that. But ultimately, the goal is to get you to think. And the question of the day is, for yourself, ask yourself, is it possible that I have been repressing my feelings there goes my kitty, that I've been repressing my feelings, and that I've been afraid, and I've been afraid of being afraid. And perhaps, is it possible that the reason I've been afraid of being afraid is because I'm afraid to look at my feelings. I'm afraid to look at the thoughts that support those feelings, and I'm afraid to look at those beliefs that support the thoughts that support those feelings, because I identify with them. And so I would encourage, in the spiritual community or self-help programs, everybody says, don't worry, be happy, right? Be happy, be happy, be happy, be happy. It's very hard to be happy when you have a garden of a bunch of trees of beliefs that you accepted as a child that are basically dropping fruit of negative feelings, which are growing into more trees of negativity. You can feed, some people feed them. Some people feed them because they want to feel justified. They want to justify the feelings because they think they are the feelings. So they nurture them and they feed them and they fuel them, and the trees grow and they drop more fruit and it grows more, and they have this garden full of all of these trees just like themselves. Or some people do what I did, and we don't look at them because we're literally afraid. We're afraid. I was afraid of feelings for a very long time, and I'll get into it in my next episode, but I have been practicing just looking at my feelings. And I'll tell you guys something. I cannot believe I was repressing my feelings so much that I didn't even know I was having them. Because your subconscious, if you tell your subconscious, hey, I'm afraid of feelings, I'm afraid of feeling sad, I'm afraid of feeling scared, I'm afraid of feeling angry, you're telling it you don't want to think those things or feel those things. And so what it does is it immediately projects into your environment and tries to justify the feelings as being outside of yourself. You're not feeling them. This thing is happening to you, and you can't even see it. You can't. It will look like it's just happening. Why? Why is this happening? We're literally calling it to ourselves because we're afraid to look at our feelings. So the game here is, and I'm going to talk about this all week. I'm going to talk about my experiences, and we'll kind of really dive into this more. But here's the game. Watch yourself. Free of all judgment. Allow yourself to feel. If you feel, if anything outside of you, another person, something you have to do, something someone said, something you didn't, or it doesn't even have to be things that are physically happening outside of you, but things that you think you have to do, things that you think you did. If you feel, pay attention. If you feel a tinge of yuckiness, That's a negatively charged emotion. Now, here's the beautiful thing. Those emotions, when they're embraced, can become fuel. The same emotion that fuels fear and anxiety fuels excitement. And the same energy that fuels anger fuels determination. And the same anger that fuels sadness fuels joy. But the first things first, we're not going to be trying to battle. We're not going to be trying to resist. We're not going to be trying to fight. We're not going to be trying to override the feelings right now. What we're going to do is just play a game and see how many Pokemon, catch them all. Well, I'm not saying catch them all, that's pretty intense. But catch them. And as soon as you feel it, I have a question for you to, as soon as you feel it, right? If it feels like something's happening outside and you feel bad, and your mind's immediately going to say, I feel bad because of this thing. I feel bad because I have paperwork to do. I feel bad because my boss said something to me. I feel bad because of my spouse, or I feel bad because of my sister. I feel bad because of my brother. Whatever it is, reroute it and express the truth. And begin the sentence with, make sure you say feel. Whenever you're going to put a negative emotion on something, use the word feel, not am. Don't say I am sad, I am angry. Because what you're doing is you're putting a permanence to it. I am is the term that we use to define who and what we are. So if you say I am angry, well, that's the whole reason that everybody's been resisting their feelings, because they identify so much with them. And there's a permanence to I am. I am Brian, right? So instead, I feel afraid because. You got a situation going in front of you, say that sentence, and the subconscious is a very powerful tool. We're going to talk about your superconscious and how you can use that later. But for now, let's bring these things to the surface. You cannot transcend anything that you're afraid of, and you cannot control anything that controls you. So if you're feeding it or resisting it, you're afraid of it, and you're giving it power. So it's time to embrace it. Now, there's a lot more I could go on about the success that I've had with this, but I want you guys, try it. Go out there and try it. And we'll discuss some of the things that I've seen. But for now, the goal is just to catch them, bring them to the surface. You don't have to do anything with it. Just say it. Free yourself to be able to admit that in the moment, you don't feel all that great. It's okay. All right, on that note, it's been 17 minutes. Wow, I did it. I kept a short run. So there'll be more on this later. But remember that. So watch your thoughts. It's okay to have these feelings. They're just feelings. They're energetic motion. It's okay. And not only is it okay to feel them, I promise you, the only way out is in. You do this. You follow along for this series here. I promise you, you will transcend aspects of yourself that have been haunting you for longer than you can imagine, that you didn't even know were there, and definitely didn't know you could overcome, and you will. And this is the first step. All right? So listen to your thoughts. Try to catch them. Don't identify with them. But understand that right for now, they're a part of you, and it's okay. But when something happens, get to the not to the effect, which is whatever you think is happening out in the world. Reroute the way you say it. I'm sorry. Wow. I feel afraid because. And watch, the answer will fly right into your head. All right, guys, have a great morning, and I'll see you soon.